so now retrieve your second flat piece, and we're going to put that right sides together with your first flat piece. Bend your zipper trim up so that it gets out of the road of your seam, and stick a clip there to hold that, and clip the flap together all the way around. Lining up your raw edges. Use a couple of extra clips around here because that's putting pressure on it. So now we're going to go over to the sewing machine, and we're going to stitch right around there and leave that open for turning. So now we're going to stitch our flap. We're stitching using a 1 centimetre seam allowance. That's 3/8 of an inch. I like to hold the flap level and it doesn't pull the two seams apart. Okay, so now we have to do some trimming and turn our flap right sides out. Okay, so now that we have stitched our flap, we're going to layer the seams. That just means we're trimming the layers back so that they're not the same size. I'm going to trim them down a little bit as well. So I'm going to trim it back to about 6 mils, 1/4 of an inch. To lay that, we'll just trim that back. just the one layer. See that you can see that it's a different length, it just sits flatter. Now just grab my pinking shears. I also like to just go around the curved areas with the pinking shears, making sure not to snip into the stitching. Like that. Now we're just going to turn our flap right sides out. Now we're going to do some pressing. And just make sure it's all pushed out right. And we'll give it a press. Okay, so now I'm just going to base this top edge of our flap using a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Just to hold all the layers together. Okay, so just get this messy bits out of the way. Grab your flap. Position into place. And then add some weights. I'm just going to take it away and add some weights and allow it to dry. And when it's dry, we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so I'm going to top stitch my flap now, the trim. I'm going to start up here and stitch all the way around here, up and down around here and back up to the starting point. I'm using my zipper foot. It's a nice little narrow 3mm 1/8 of an inch zipper foot, so it'll allow me to get nice and close to this zipper trim. And yeah, let's do it. using a 3.1 stitch length. Go around the corners slowly. Okay, just mentioning here that while I've used a colour to match my trim on the top side, on the bottom side I've used a colour in my bobbin to match my exterior, because you will see the stitching lines. Okay, so now it's time to mark the position of the hole for your twist lock. I'm just grabbed, well, what's left of my flap trim and I'm just going to position that on there, and I'm going to poke a hole right in the middle of that, oops, like that, and just mark the center spot. Take my trim away. I'm just going to use the backing plate, which will be going underneath. I'm going to use that here, just to use that as a template to mark where I'm going to cut my hole. Like that. Now I advise that you use punches to punch the hole. It's very hard to cut that with a pair of scissors. If you haven't got a shaped punch like this, which I have here, then I recommend just using a round one and then chip away at it till you get your hole. But I have this set which has got quite a range of different shapes and sizes, and I think this one here seems to be a pretty good fit. So I will use that one to punch my hole. So with the magic of video, I shall just disappear and go and do that. Okay, so now that I have made my hole and checked for fit, and I can see that it's all good, I am going to put some glue onto my metal bits and some fray stopper around this fabric. You don't need a ton of glue, you don't want it oozing out over your fabric. I like to make sure I get it on the whole part on that rim there. Now the template part goes at the back. Probably should just add the whole part first, and I did it back to front. Typical of me. Do everything backwards. Get the glue out of the road. Put that into place, make sure it's sitting straight. Grab the whole thing, flop it over. Some of these twist locks have screws, so yours might have a screw, which is fine. Mine doesn't, so I need to bend these prongs. Gently does it. And there, now we can set that aside to dry. So now we're going to attach one of our phone pocket pieces. So just grab one. They're both the same, so I don't need to pick one. Find the center top. If you've got a directional fabric, it matters. Doesn't matter with the fabric I'm using. And we'll find the center top of the flap. Now we're just going to grab some clips and clip it to hold in place, lining up those two marks. Now we're going to go over to the sewing machine and baste using a 6mm 1/4 inch seam. So now we're going to baste our phone pocket to our flap using a 1/4 inch seam.